Thank you for attending tonight's third budget workshop on facility security and propositions. If you could please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you all again for attending tonight's workshop. I would like to turn it over to Dr. Romanelli.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tussey. Welcome, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for being here for our third budget workshop of the season. We have had 2 workshops already. Our first budget workshop was an overview of the budget generally. We had our curriculum and instruction report from Mrs. Morrison and all of our directors at our last meeting. And just want to share really that these budget workshops are exactly that. Workshops are spaces where we can really present where we are at with the budget at a moment in time and really share with the community, our thoughts, what we're thinking, and then also accept any sort of feedback that is coming from people in the community. We heard really loud and clear since the last workshop a lot of love for our building aides that work at our front desks at our buildings, for sure, loud and clear. And just want to kind of clarify one piece there. Our intention was, never to leave those spaces empty in our buildings. It's really a restructuring of our current staff that we have. So we have talked about this with our building principals at the elementary level, at the middle school level. Mrs. Morrison's going to be going more into detail with this this evening, but we are going to have a restructuring which does cover those front desks and leaves us looking really similar or identical to the way that we are this year at the front of each of our buildings. So I think that it's more than just someone there as a greeter who's saying hello, but there are a lot of relationships that have been built at the building by the people at the front desk there, and we definitely heard that loud and clear from our families. So with that being said, again, this is a process. We are optimistic just after the Senate and Assembly budgets that we have seen recently, just calling for a full restoration of our state aid plus a minimum of 3%, which we are hopeful for. And really, we're going to talk about that throughout the course of this evening. But I'll pass it over to Mrs. Morrison, who's going to talk about what's in the budget.
Thank you, Dr. Romanelli. Good evening, everybody. As Dr. Romanelli mentioned, the budget process is fluid until its official adoption on April 16th. Oh, thank you, Ms. Pilates. After each budget presentation, the perspectives shared by district stakeholders are reflected on and feasible adjustments are made prior to the next budget meeting. The information on the slide that Mrs. Pilates is getting before you came from the March 12th budget presentation. Based on the feedback shared after that meeting, we'd like to provide updates in regard to the elementary literacy program and the restructuring of building aid positions. In regard to elementary literacy, prior to the financial constraints posed by the budget, the plan was to pilot a new reading program, K-5, for the first half of the 24-25 school year and to train staff on the selected program throughout the second half of the year. While the district is not purchasing a new literacy program for the upcoming school year, we will continue to advance our initiative to strengthen the literacy program and make it the benchmark for other school districts by implementing foundations in all third grade classrooms, which includes training and ongoing push and support for all third grade teachers. Since implementing foundations and integrity with fidelity in the primary grades over the past 3 years, reading issues continue to decrease. Expanding foundations into third grade for the 24-25 school year will support essential literacy acquisition skills necessary at the K-5 level. We will also be piloting and evaluating literacy program options in K-5 classrooms throughout the district, with the ultimate goal of selecting a program and a professional development structure that ensures its effective implementation going forward. In addition, we will continue to provide science of reading professional development with increased complexity while maintaining the expectation that practices related to it are evident across all content areas. And on July 1st, the district will enter into year 2 of the MTSS grant with the New York State Education Department. The focus for year 2 will be the analysis of the district's literacy practices, which ties in very nicely with our piloting of the new programs. In response to the feedback received about building aids, 1 aide for each middle school, so a total of 2 aides have been added back into the budget. This will support front desk coverage and health office support at Beach Street and Udall Road Middle Schools in line with the current structure in place at each of the buildings. Each elementary school currently has 6 non-mandated aide positions. Non-mandated aide positions are those aides not required for special education purposes. While each elementary building will be reduced by 3 aides, the remaining 3 aides will be reallocated to ensure front desk and health office coverage in line with the current structure at each building. Elementary and middle school principals met with the central office team to discuss the restructuring of aide positions and indicated that it will provide the flexibility necessary to ensure front desk and health office coverage. At this time, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Mrs. Pilati to share a current overview of the budget.
Sorry. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Romanelli. Thank you, Mrs. Morrison. Good evening, everyone. This is just an overview of where we're at with the current budget. The tax levy for the 2024-25 school year is projected at $93.4 million, which represents an increase in the levy of 1.44%. I'm not sure if you could see the little circle or whatever shape they are on the left and right there, but they basically state that the average levy increase right now in Long Island is 2.67%. And Suffolk County is seeing an average increase at 2.97%, and Nassau has an average increase of 2.33%. So as you can see, our increase of 1.44% is extremely low and below averages currently. We are still awaiting the final state aid numbers. The state budget should be released by April 1st, although we have all heard that it might be closer to April 15th, at which time we should hopefully be receiving that information because we have to adopt by April 16th. Both the Senate and Assembly have released and adopted their one-house budgets about 2 weeks ago. These budgets are the formal responses to the governor's executive budget proposal. Both houses proposed to restore all Save Harmless Foundation aid cuts. They have rejected the proposed adjustment to the foundation aid formula with the inflation adjustment, and they have provided for a minimum of 3% increase in foundation aid for all districts. Our current budget gap, as you can see with draft 3 all the way to the right, is just over $4 million. We also currently have the reduction of $3.4 million in foundation aid. So we are hopeful that foundation aid will be restored with the minimum increase of 3%. If that happens, the current budget gap will be eliminated by that foundation aid restoration. This year on the ballot, we will have 2 propositions. Our first is our school budget vote, and the second will be a proposition for the use of our capital reserves. Capital reserve allows a district to save money to cover the cost of any capital project that would otherwise have to be funded through your annual budget or through a bond. There is absolutely no cost to taxpayers to establish or use a capital reserve because the only way it can be established is by already existing surplus funds. Voter authorization is not only required to establish a capital reserve, but it is also required each time a district would like to use the funds that are in the reserve. This is a summary of the 2 capital reserves we currently have. The first on the left is a capital reserve fund that was established and approved by the community during the May 2019 budget vote. The district was able to transfer monies into this reserve for the past 5 years, 2019 through 2023. The community has voted and approved to expend monies from this fund in May 2021, May 2022, and January 2023 to complete various projects. The Capital Reserve Fund 2, on the right-hand side, was voter approved by the community during the May 2022 budget vote. The district was able to transfer monies into this reserve for the past 2 years. And we were also able to transfer monies that were deemed to be in excess in other reserves. Those 3 reserves were the Workers' Compensation Reserve, the Unemployment Reserve, and the ERS Reserve. The community voted and approved to expend monies from this fund in January 23, and that was mainly for the air conditioning project. The total of both of these capital reserves as of June 30th, 2023 is just over $1 million. And also, as we begin to close out the capital reserve projects that have been completed, any unspent funds will be returned to the capital reserve funds. So just as an example, this current school year, in the 23-24 school year, we recently just closed out our May 2021 projects because they do take time to complete and close out with all of our billing. And the unspent funds from those projects was about $96,000. So that money is just returned to the capital reserve fund. The proposition in May will be to use capital reserve funds from both of these reserve funds to do the following projects. District-wide, we would like to begin with phase 1 of a boiler burner controls replacement project. At Udall Road Middle School, we are going to renovate the orchestra room with updates to the HVAC system, leveling out the flooring, and adding additional acoustical tiles. These projects are estimated to cost approximately $860,000. And again, it's important to note that this is just an estimate, and any unspent funds would be returned to the capital reserve fund when these projects are closed out. Our custodial and maintenance and grounds and school safety personnel have accomplished a great deal this year. Our buildings are cleaned to the highest standards, the grounds are well maintained, and issues are promptly resolved. The bond and capital reserves have also continued to afford us the opportunity to address many projects district-wide. Mr. McAlevey, our Director of School Safety, is going to take us through the school safety budget this time.
Thank you, Lisa. I just had a couple of points to make. Appreciate all the work on that. So just to clarify a couple of things too on the budget. So the budget this year is about a 3.5% increase over the total money that we spent last year. So if you think about that, the inflation rate in the United States over the last 12 months is about that. So really, we've been able to hold the line if you look at the inflation rate. But not only hold the line with what we're doing, we're adding all of these items that was on slide number 1, right? We're expanding the grade 3 foundations. We are adding a board-certified behavior analyst. We're adding a speech teacher, an EL teacher. We're expanding the ICT special ed class at Beach Street Middle School for grade 7. We're adding vocational courses in science and engineering technology. We have an increased enrollment in the elementary school. Good job, everybody out there. That's great. Increased enrollment is always good. So we're going to probably experience some increased classes, which is always good. Pre-kindergarten enrollment is 264, largest classes ever. Pre-K professional development will be expanded, support board replenishment, and the replacement of one-to-one devices K2 and 9. And the reason I bring this up is we basically, Elisa, Paul, and the administration team has basically spent the same amount of money, if you correct for inflation, and added all of these items for this year. So it's a testament to the financial strength of the district, even in times where we're facing really tough times on other districts on the island. And I always say we worry about what happens in West Islip because that's what we can control, and we're doing a great job. We're not the other districts around that are cutting all of these teachers and all these programs. We're able to fiscally be sound to where we are now and add programs for next year. So thanks for that, and thanks for keeping us where we are.
Thank you.
Good evening. There we go. Good evening. Before we get to next year's budget for school safety, I just want to review some school safety accomplishments for the school year. We installed some additional exterior cameras at Paul J. Ballou, the Transportation Garage, and Udall and Beach Street Middle Schools. Beach Street, we added a PTZ camera, which allows us to zoom in and pan and tilt the camera. It's a very, very good camera, as well as Udall as well. The transportation building, we expanded on that building to now we have coverage of the library fields, which is a blind spot for us for many years. And we also have coverage of the West Hyacinth Public Library, as there's a lot of foot traffic. Paul J. Blue is a very challenging school with a lot of foot traffic through there with the public library during the school day. Gives us a little bit more coverage there as well. We installed additional door strikes at Udall and B Street Middle School. Udall off the cafeteria. During cafeteria, they allowed the children to go out in the back, play basketball, and run around. And we installed a door strike on that door for easy access in the event there's some type of emergency outside in the back of the building. Likewise at B Street, the exterior door to the gymnasium, which leads to the handball court and the soccer fields where the phys ed classes go outside. It affords them quick access to the building in the event they need to get in quickly. We purchased training AEDs and rescue masks for all staff, school safety staff. Currently, right now, School Safety Officer James Martinez, who's an active code officer, he works part-time here at School Safety. He's a certified CPR AED first aid instructor, and he's putting a class on as we speak right now at the high school with 7 school safety officers in attendance tonight. So we purchased some training material for that. We installed new flashing yellow and white light kits to 2 of our school safety vehicles. You'll see them in the dashboards and in the back windows. At some of the events that you see, like concerts and after-school activities, I do instruct the guards to activate those lights. It's not to alarm anybody, it's just to, 1, deter any criminal behavior. If someone's coming with bad intentions and they see flashing lights on a security guard, most likely they'll go the other way, and that's the goal. And it's also to show the community and the staff and the students that we are there, and they can come up to us if they have any issues, and we'll be there to address it. So, high visibility for those vehicles. We installed window coverings for the high school gymnasium, and currently we have, with the help of James and his department, put a purchase order together for some of the elementary schools and the middle schools. What this does, our gymnasiums are really difficult to lock down in because there's doors on multiple sides of the room. So if we do have a class in there, it's very hard to conceal the students. So we have drop-down blinds now, which are fire retardant, which is approved by the fire marshal. And in the event of a lockdown, you pull the snap and it comes right down over the window. So it allows for a classroom in there to conceal in the event of an emergency. So we piloted it at the high school. Both gyms are outfitted right now with the window coverings. And like I said, we're in the process of catching up the elementary and middle schools with that. We installed new locks for the exterior gates across the district. This is something that's a long time overdue. We have many youth groups, we have sport athletes, and a lot of people in the community that utilize our fields outside of the school day. And the gates and the locks are the same for all of them. So we ordered new locks that the keys cannot be duplicated, because we found that in the past, keys were getting duplicated and that there was way too many keys out there for my liking. So we have since changed all the locks and have tighter access of those keys for access to our buildings. We're very proud of that accomplishment. Providing New York State Security Guard license annual training is something that we provide for all of our guards. They have to maintain their New York State Security Guard license. They have to take an annual training, 8-hour course every year. So we bring in a company, outside company, to come in, and he trains all of our guards to make sure that they're in compliance with New York State certifications. Professional development, CPR, AED, as I just mentioned, and CPI, which is Crisis Prevention Intervention, which is a class on how to handle crisis, or students in crisis, or staff in crisis, and de-escalation tactics. So all of our staff members, we've sent a number of guards through that class already. It's taught in-house by our special ed department, and we have another class slated for May, so we'll be sending a good 6 to 7 guards through that class as well. Thanks, Doc. All right, so as we see, catch up here. The overall school safety budget is projected to increase for the next school year by 18.84%. The majority of the school safety budget consists of personnel costs, which has increased by about 18.6%. The main reason for the increase is due to the fact that we now have armed guards in each of our buildings, and due to the ARP COVID funding ending as of June 30th, 2024. The ARP funding allowed us to add 1 additional guard to each of the buildings. that was when I started here, I guess roughly 3 years ago. We were able to add a guard to every building, which has been a tremendous help to each building. And it was funded by this ARP grant, and this year is the last year of that funding. We have been fortunate to have let's move down to equipment, replenishment cycle for our school safety vehicles. At this point, we are not budgeting for any additional vehicles. We plan on purchasing additional electronic door strikes, additional exterior cameras for various buildings in the district. Professional services. The reason for the significant increase in professional services is due to an increase in our A+ annual maintenance contract. It also includes our annual on-guard license renewal, such as the unarmed New York State certifications. The on guards have to maintain the certification to New York State as well, and we will be providing them with that training as well to make sure that they're all in compliance and getting the proper training that they need. As a school safety department, we're always looking for ways to improve and make sure we are properly trained. School safety staff receive active shooter training, New York State annual security guard training, CPR, AED, Narcan, and various other trainings. One of our school safety officers, as I just mentioned, is teaching our guards and certifying them in CPR, AED. I believe as school safety officers, we should always strive to be professional. Having the same uniform for all members of the school safety staff demonstrates unity and professionalism. We will continue to make sure all of our school safety officers are provided with uniforms, and that's under the uniform tab. I do think it's important for us all to be uniform. We do have guards that bounce around from school to school. The one thing that they do have in common, if a staff member or student is not familiar with that guard in that building that day, they're all wearing the same uniforms. So they're easily able to understand that they are with the school safety team. It's extremely important. Without further ado, I think this is why everybody's here, Mr. Bossi. So I will introduce Mr. James Bossi, Director of Buildings and Grounds.
Well, one thing, Mr. McAleer, I just want to thank you and your entire team for security. So another budget item that I want to make sure that everyone's aware of is the investment that we made probably over the last 5 years with security. You know, Mr. McAleer is here 3 years, but in that time, we've added the security lobbies to all the schools, the 2 doors in there. We've also added security film. We've added armed guards. We've added more guards. So the investment that is made from this district in security is to protect everyone in the buildings, including the children. And as a member of the board, and everyone here has our children, it's a safe place and environment. So we've invested a lot of money proudly to make sure that these schools are safe and remain safe.
Hello, and thank you for having me tonight to explain some of the budget items and things we've accomplished in our department of Buildings and Grounds. We'll start off with the construction and capital projects that we completed in the past year. We've been lucky at West Islip Schools for all the years I've been here that we've had continuous improvements to our facilities through funding by bonds, by building aid, grants, and capital reserve funding. So it's been helpful that we've been able to improve our schools all around with all the facility equipment we have. Some examples of that would be, we did district-wide air conditioning, as you might have been aware, across all the classrooms in the whole district. We renovated restrooms at Udall and Beach. We rebuilt and reconstructed the Beach Middle School Rotunda south side walls and the windows there. Higby Lane, we did campus-style fencing near Paul J. Blue, where it enters the high school. That's phase 2 of the project we did. District-wide, we added HVAC BMS upgrades to help control everything properly, because those were all outdated, 20 or more years old. Also in the high school, we're in the middle of a fire alarm complete replacement of everything in the building, not just the panels, but every detector, every sensor, every pull station, strobe lights, sound speakers, all that's being done. And next year, we're slated to do 2 more schools, and we'll keep going on throughout the district. High school circuit breaker panels were upgraded. We went from fuses to circuit breaker panels. That's been very helpful and safer. High school science lab renovations, we did 2 different labs last summer. And we did an additional parking lot at Paul J. Ballou with pole lights that we just recently installed. At Udall Beach and Paul J. Ballou, we also put an entirely new HVAC system that's fresh air, filtered air, heating, and cooling for this room as well. It's all behind the walls, can't see it from here. Some of the buildings and grounds accomplishments for the past year as well. I just want to mention our our Department of Custodians, maintenance mechanics, groundsmen, drivers, clerical workers, and others. They all contribute to the safe, clean, and functional condition of our facilities. Some of the examples of projects on this list that would include, we created walking trails along the Wills Creek path for the science students. They have environmental testing there of the air, they evaluate the biology, and they do some work in there that we help them get to. We installed smart boards across the district as well as digital sign display boards and monitors. We installed concrete walkways and paths and areas for people to transition from one place to the next without mud or grass or anything else. We installed new team benches for the student athletes. Also for cafeteria, recess, we installed a few benches that way as well. We renovated offices and instructional spaces. We moved and replaced ceilings and lighting in all different places through the buildings. Sometimes it's areas that you don't quite notice, but after a weekend or after a break, we have a new ceiling in there, all new LED lights, and a much cleaner look. We repaired and installed window screens in many places in the district. We installed ductless air conditioning split units. These are in addition to the ones that were done as part of the air conditioning project. These are ones that our crew installed in different locations, offices, reading rooms, some other instructional rooms. We obviously did service to the boilers and heating equipment and plumbing systems. And we completed a lot of IT equipment installations, whether it's data jacks or server power outlets, wireless access points, everything to do with IT, we installed those things as well. So for the budget, we broke out the budget into different areas. Can you get one more slide? Thanks. The budget is fairly consistent in my department year to year. It increases more or less every year, but not by dramatic amounts. The minor increases are usually typically due to labor rate increases or material costs, but the more significant increases come up with things like utilities or unexpected facility repairs. In addition to that will be projects that we decide to tackle each and every year as they come up. Each year we review all the past year expenses, and then we make assumptions about the expected cost for boiler repairs, HVAC work, sewers and plumbing work, motors and pump rebuilding, BMS systems, electrical equipment, alarm system repairs, etc. And then each year we recognize that some of those repairs or replacements are more than we budgeted for, and some other ones are lower than we budgeted for. But as an average, year to year, we can estimate to get close to that range. So on this list of budget items, one of them was equipment. I want to mention there are a few items that we had in the budget that we took out, such as a large field mower, a maintenance van, and a box truck that has a lift gate. And we'll keep going with the ones we have now, and we'll put that off to a future year. Utilities are a big item because in recent years with all the escalation or inflation, we've had electrical rate increases, national grid, natural gas increases. And the other big thing that's happening is our escalation of consumption. We've added IT equipment across the district, monitors, instructional IT equipment as well, like smart boards, Chromebooks, electrical equipment for server equipment, door access control for security, cameras, and of course air conditioning across the district as well. So those expenses go up because our consumption goes up. We're using more power and we require to spend more money because of that. The other one is our maintenance contracts. When we hire a company for dumpster services or boiler repairs, electrical work, services and inspections of elevators and freezers and partitions in the gyms, all those costs are going up. They're charging more than they ever did before. So that's affected us as well. So on that list of budget items, you can see that some have gone up, some have gone down. The more significant item was the drop in equipment cost. That's because of the equipment we chose not to get this particular year. And the increase on utilities was expected because of the addition of air conditioning. Other than that, I just want to say thank you again to the board and to the public, everyone involved, for letting us provide it to the district. Thank you. Any questions?
Can I just clarify the security? I know Mr. McAfee said that the COVID money allowed for another guard before that. That was worked into the budget to make sure that there are still going to remain 2 cars, correct? You're not going to lose them. Okay, just one moment.
All right, thank you, James. And just as always, just congratulations to you and your team for always keeping our buildings and facilities state of the art. The grounds, everything, so thank you.
Okay. Our next budget work session will take place on April 11th here in Beach Street Auditorium, where we will be discussing revenue, reserves, and state aid, and hopefully we'll have a final budget at that time, because we have to adopt our budget on April 16th. And for 2024-25 school year, we will have 2 board trustee seats open. The nominating petitions for those seats are due to the district office by April 22nd. Our public budget hearing will take place on May 7th. And of course, our budget vote will be held on May 21st in the high school gymnasium between 7 a.m. and 9 p.m.
All right, and before we end, I just want to take a moment to thank everybody who came in March 20th and participated in the letter writing campaign. As a district, we had sent out over 800 letters, and that's a testament to everyone who came and had one filled out, of course, for everybody that was there stuffing envelopes. So on behalf of the grateful board, the school district, we thank you very much. Before we move into the planning session, I will ask if anybody has any questions about the budget presentation tonight.